I'm Etzion from Haifa, Israel. Today is the 5th of April 2025. Usually we start our session with musical piece. It is fresh from the furnace. On last Tuesday, we had a meeting of few wind bands here in Haifa. We had two guests from two cities of Israel. One is Lod, one we call Kfar Saba. And we met here and I recorded the entire performance. I will share with you a piece of our band. Maybe next time share you with different bands. It was an opportunity of sharing musicians and conductors that want to share together and study from each other and learn from each other. This was a tribute selection from Michael Jackson. 2 weeks ago, I participated in our one of the discussion groups, creation its causes, and brought up the issue of spiritual circles. Somebody questioned me about this issue. Since some of them watched presumably one of these sessions, each time I say that bring the musical pieces, not only because I want to show you some of what myself and my friends contributing to society, that mainly this is the only situation on earth where a few human beings get together and work together with harmony while obeying the conductor. And it was a question if also this discussion group is a spiritual circle. So to my understanding, every opportunity that we get together and we do something communally together with working together, willing to listen to each other, and there is always almost a need for somebody who maintains focus, like a conductor or conductors in our case. Because even if we build a chair in a carpentry shop, somebody must coordinate and concentrate on the efforts of the workers, etc. But the issue with the spiritual circles was the point of the whole thing. It's not just our coordinated efforts, because there are many millions of human beings who participating in music on Earth. And if this communal coordination activity, centered activity, was supposed to bring some healing to humanity, then the healing of humanity would take place already, but it doesn't. The question is how the healing of the humanity is to bring the spiritual realms and the physicals in union, to create new energies on Earth. And this ordinary musical band cannot do, because the participants must to be centered on the divine beloved to a certain degree, and the conductor must to be an advanced soul, somebody who at least advanced on the spiritual planes. Doesn't need to be a perfect master, doesn't matter about his grade, but he must have an awareness that their work together, is to connect the spiritual world and the physical world, and then we would bring new spiritual energies to Earth, and thus we could have transformed the crude human consciousness towards the divine. But it's not happening. This was an attempt of Master Moses and his team, initiated by Lord Abraham, the Avatar. You know the story. The story was basically failed, unfortunately, due to the fact that we, the spiritual people, didn't succeed in maintaining the spiritual circles. We didn't understand the mission of Master Moses. And which was meant, to my understanding, to reestablish a spiritual government on earth, which is a state of the paradise, as we call it, the Garden of Eden, where the spiritual hierarchy is conducting the affairs of humanity in order to advance and proceed all the movements on the path with minimal pain. Some pain is necessary in order to forge the soul. We supposedly try to improve the creation. We decide to go this work is not good enough, because with our limited vision, we decided to improve it, so we ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil without having a real knowledge. So just partial human knowledge, and you can see that human knowledge today destroys the planet. We'll continue with a little bit of our studies with Genesis, and then I would like to share the passing of a very great person during the 30th of April 1925. That was Rudolf Steiner, through whom I came to Baba. I have been translating from the Hebrew to the English. It's a very long process. I'm quite advancing with this. Hopefully, it will be blessed in a digital book in Amazon, somewhere over the internet. Jacob and Esau. The term struggled between Cain and Hevel. Cain and Hevel were the two brothers. We know the story that Cain murdered Hevel. And I said, as I understood it, through the inspiration of Baba, that Cain and Hevel are two aspects within each one of us. The physical aspect represented by Cain and the spiritual aspect represented by Hevel. If we listen to the sound of the name, Ka, it's hard, Hevel, something soft, airy. Abraham came to reinstate divine consciousness on earth, a man who fulfills on earth the supreme spiritual values of the image of God. Abraham was gifted with super consciousness, probably from birth. So he was automatically a member of the group we refer to above as Yahweh Elohim. Yahweh Elohim spoke about this in the first chapter of Genesis. And this is the culmination of the path. It is a fraternity of the spiritual masters or the people who achieved the goal and the function together is oneness, the oneness of all the separate individuals. When they come back to union, then this being symbolized by the expression Yahweh Elohim, explained in detail in the first chapter of Genesis, how we came to understand all this, and we will skip it. It was explained in Genesis chapter 1 that Yahweh Elohim is actually the answer to the riddle of creation. The endless separate individuals become united with super consciousness. His main task was to renew on earth the spiritual circles that humans had destroyed. He gave birth to Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac represents the spiritual aspect of man, Hevel. Ishmael represents the material, earthly aspect, Cain. These two aspects are essential for attaining supreme consciousness. It is Ishmael's responsibility to protect Isaac Cain's mission is to protect Hevel. Ishmael is the father of the Arabic nation, and Isaac was the father of Jacob, and Jacob later on became Israel. Israel meaning the God-man. And then the meaning of Ishmael, listen to the God. So they should work together. That was the design, which unfortunately didn't work out for one day. But at least we have to be aware of it. Because what happened 3,500 years ago still impinges on the current situation in the Middle East and worldwide. It was Abraham who opened the path that humans closed, so humanity can return to the path of rendering spiritual work, the purpose of which is to attain supreme levels of consciousness. Now, the spiritual responsibility has returned to humankind, to us. You have a responsibility to restore the human race to paradise. Paradise is a state of mind in which all individuals work together in harmony, just an orchestra works together in a disciplined manner to unite the fabric of opposites into one whole. Chapter 25 of Genesis. It is being given here the lineage of Abraham. Abraham planted the seed for the foundation of creating the new opportunity for redeeming humankind after the fall of man. It has to be through establishing a family centered on spirituality, focused on the divine beloved. In Abraham, to my understanding here, is the leader or one of the key representatives of what I call the fraternity of Yahweh Elohim. He was avatar, so he was the head of spirituality. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebecca, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramean of Padan Aram. It's more or less between Syria and Iraq somewhere. The sister of Laban the Aramean to be his wife. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord let himself be entreated of him. And Rebecca, his wife, conceived. Also, we remember that Sarah, the wife of Abraham, was burned. She couldn't give birth till she was, I think, 90 years old. And then she gave the birth to Isaac. Yitzhak is from laughter. Yitzhak is to laugh. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, "If it be so, wherefore do I live?" And she went to inquire of the Lord. There were two, she had twins, and the twins were struggling between her womb. This represents the internal battle between Cain and Hevel within us. And the Lord said unto her, "Two nations are in thy womb, and two peoples shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger." And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came forth woody, all over like a hairy mantle, and they called his name Esau. And after that came forth his brother, and his hand had hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. Jacob is to follow, because he was holding Esau's heel. There were the two brothers. Jacob was supposed to be the first, but Esau was stronger, so he pushed himself out first. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bore them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a guileless man dwelling in the tents. Jacob was a spiritual person, and he was sitting in the tents of his father, and most likely reading the library of his grandfather, Abraham. Now Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, and Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob sowed pottage, and Esau came in from the field, and he was faint. He didn't succeed to hunt anything. He was a hunter. And Jacob, who was working there, also was taking care of the herds because they were a very wealthy family with many herds, etc. Because Isaac inherited the wealth of his father, who was multi-millionaire at least in those days, with an army more than 300 men. It was a very big, it was like some small nation those days. And Esau said to Jacob, let me swallow, I pray thee, some of this red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. Edom or Adom is red in Hebrew. And part of the problem of reading the Hebrew text, because when you read it in Hebrew, then you have much deeper taste and understanding of the meaning. You can see in a way all these images which cannot be transferred to another language. And Jacob said, sell me first thy birthright. Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall the birthright do to me? And Jacob said, swear to me first. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils. And he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. So Esau despised his birthright. It's quite a strange situation. There are two brothers. They stay together in the same household, the same tent. And Esau has to go to the kitchen and ask for food. He simply take a plate and fill it up and enjoy it. Why Esau ask permission from his brother to eat? Only this incident tells a tale between the two brothers, the situation between Cain and Abel. They're still in a rift. That the two individuals supposed to heal humanity didn't get along. That's what the story tells. Because if they would were happy together, and the family of Isaac and Rebekah would be some lovely family, then why should you go? You come to the kitchen, the tent is open, and if you're hungry, you go and eat. You don't need to make any deals in order to receive some food. They were not poor, they were very wealthy, they were feeding hundreds of people every day. Son Isaac gives birth to Jacob and Esau, the twins. It gives rise to both sides of the human personality, and it is no coincidence that they appear as twins. There is a bitter, incessant struggle between them for primacy. Supremacy, I believe. For the essence of the senior human position, for the essence and purpose of life. While reading it, I discovered some points which I think has to be corrected. The struggle between them, already in the mother's womb, symbolizes the internal struggle that takes place in every person between the rule of the subconscious mind, the darkness of the abyss, and the awakened consciousness. The victory is, in fact, the understanding of Cain's consciousness that all these achievements are short-term and fleeting. Cain's consciousness is focused on earthly achievements. The consciousness of Cain becomes clear that this is a destructive path, then this possibility arises that man's divine I amness will be able to transcend and transform Cain into heaven. This has been our mission as spiritual people, to transform the aspect of Cain in humanity to heaven, from the physical man to the spiritual man. We have to do it individually and collectively. And since we are not doing it, most of humanity stays in the realm of the physical person who sees the aim of life to make a career, a physical career, to be successful on earth, and not to ascend the spiritual path. Jacob, grandson of Abraham, is the one who prepares the earthly foundation destined for the restoration of the human race. Human beings are supposed to function together in spiritual circles that work in perfect harmony. These circles have been deliberately shattered by those who have consciously decided to break away from the leadership of superconscious beings, or the circle of Yahweh Elohim, as I phrase it, and that the right course of action on earth is subject to their limited understanding. Its shattering is symbolized in the story of Abel's murder by Cain. As I suggested earlier, the phenomenon of death does not exist at all. It means the shattering of the harmonious cycles of individual existence. This is no more. What is this? That all these circles and within circles, and each body of us contains endless circles. Each individual cell is a united circle. It has a core and it has a periphery. If you look at it more closely, and see that all our systems are circles within circles within circles, and when these circles breaks apart, we call it death. So what happened when came the fall of man? We broke the spiritual circles and cut ourselves from the union of heaven and earth. And this brought all the destruction on earth. Rebecca's supreme wisdom. Now in Genesis chapter 27, and it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, that he could not see, he called Esau his elder son, and said I to him, my son, and said I unto him, here am I. And he said, behold, now I am old, I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver and thy bow, and go out to the field, and take me venison, and make me savory food such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. And Rebekah heard, when Isaac spoke to Esau, his son, Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. And Rebekah spoke unto Jacob her son, saying, behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, bring me venison, and make me savory food, that I may eat and bless thee before the Lord, before my death. Now therefore, my son, looking to my voice according to that which I command thee, go now to the flock and fetch me from thence 2 good kits of the goats, and I will make them savory food for thy father, such as he loveth. and thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, that he may bless thee before his death. And Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, well, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall seem to him as a mocker. And I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. And his mother said unto him, upon me be thy curse, my son, only hearken to my voice, and go fetch me them. Rebecca takes on supreme spiritual responsibility. Her spiritual status does not interest her. Its action lacks any action lacks any self-interest. We will discuss this in depth below. In fact, she obeys the divine command that the firstborn should worship the youngest, because she had the vision. The Lord told her, actually, the firstborn should be Jacob, not Esau. In Hebrew, we have two very close firstborn. We call it in Hebrew Bchor, and blessing we call it Bracha. If you hear it, comes from the same root. And what is Bracha? Bracha is actually initiation. Well, there is a point of giving this blessing or Bracha, which makes the firstborn, spiritual firstborn. You become accepted to the fraternity of the perfect master, which I call Yahweh Elohim. That's the whole point. So if Isaac was in a way blind, according to some of legends, his father Abraham was commanded to sacrifice Isaac as if a proof that Abraham obeys the Lord implicitly. And while he was tying Isaac on the altar and placed him on the wood and took his blade to slaughter Isaac, he was crying, Abraham was crying with tears of fire, and the tears fell into the eyes of Isaac and blinded him. That's a legend. But every legend has a kernel of truth. And the Lord said unto her, this is before that 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 peoples shall be separate from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Rebekah prepares food for Isaac and dresses Jacob with Esau clothes, which had a fur coat or something like this, so he would feel him as if that he's hairy. And Jacob said unto his father, and Esau thy firstborn, I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said unto his son, how is it so thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, because the Lord thy God sent me good speed. And Isaac said unto Jacob, come near, I pray thee, let me feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. It was suspicious. And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy, as his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him, and he said, art thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, bring it to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless it. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said unto him, Come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, See, the smell of my son is the smell of a field which the Lord hath blessed. He was wearing the Esau clothes, and Esau was the man of the fields. He was traveling all over the place. He's a hunter. But actually, there was no need to go for hunting because they had a very large herd, as we know from the story. Rebecca slaughtered two young goats and made the food for her husband. So God gave thee of the dew of heaven and of the fat places of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be everyone that blesseth thee. It came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also made savory food and brought it unto his father. And he said unto his father, Let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, Wilt thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, and said, Who then is he that hath taken venison, and brought it me? And I have eaten of all before thou comest, and have blessed him? Yea, and he shall be blessed. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceeding great and bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, my father. And he said, Thy brother came with guile, and hath taken away that thy blessing. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And we can see this strange story. Jacob is lying. His mother, the righteous Rebecca, tells him to commit a lie, to cheat his father, so he will grab the blessing. Sorry, the blessing, as I explained, is being established as a member of the circle of Yahweh Elohim. This is the mighty responsibility of the spiritual person, and this was not the destiny of Esau. It was the destiny of Jacob. So, since Isaac was blind, maybe spiritually, because we know at the end of the book of, we'll see later on, at the end of the book of Genesis, that Jacob, when he became Israel, the God man, just before his passing, at the end of the book of Genesis, the last chapter, if I'm not wrong, Joseph brings him his 2 sons and asks him again to bless them, and first to put his right hand on the head of the firstborn, and Jacob, Israel, refuses to do it and places his right hand on the son, not the firstborn, the second son. And Joseph didn't like it. But Israel was already blind. At that time was very old and didn't see, but his spiritual vision was not blind because he could see who is a true spiritual elder. with a real bchor. So he gave him the real blessing. And Isaac, unfortunately, presumably, is what I understand from this story, was blind spiritually. And Rebecca was the one who knew the truth. So it tells us some moral. When we walk, establish godhood on earth, sometimes we have to break morality, because if Rebecca would follow the ordinary path of morality and being honest and all this, and if Esau would be selected as the heir, the firstborn, that most likely would be the end of humanity on earth. And what we really learn from this, that the fate of humanity hangs on the balance. It's again and again we see with these stories, it falls on the head of one person in this respect, on the head of Rebecca. Many people see it as Jacob is also not straight, the meaning of Jacob. Yaakov, it's in Hebrew. We have all kinds of phrases about this. I don't want to burden with Hebrew lessons here, but there's two meanings: is to follow, and also there's an element of being not honest always. And we can see later on the stories of Jacob when he had to run away. We'll tell about these stories. There are deep lessons behind the veil about all these things. You cannot read these things literally. You have to see the spiritual meaning and a spiritual responsibility. The story of Jacob and Esau is extremely complicated. In fact, the twin brothers are bound together. As Siamese twins, the roles of Cain and Abel are mixed. This represents the normal state of most people, whose consciousness is mixed between Cain consciousness and Abel. It is necessary to separate these two states, and this process of separation is fraught with anguish. Isaac was blind, spiritually blind, apparently. It should be understood here that Isaac is the official representative of Yahweh Elohim's circle on earth. It was his father Abraham who renewed this representation on earth. He had to see which of the boys was playing the role he was assigned in the program to rehabilitate humankind. But the one who understood it was his wife Rebecca. She distinguished the difference between the gentle Jacob and the strong, masculine, and impressive Esau. He was a very impressive, attractive man, to say the least. Jacob was also very attractive, but they're very different, as you can understand. He was more masculine, Jacob was more feminine in a way. She takes responsibility and commands her son to turn to the father and see his blessing. In fact, he'd already been instructed to do so before, but she understands the importance of the Hevel dynasty on earth, which Isaac apparently did not understand. It is clear to her that Jacob is the one who is supposed to take up the task to establish Heaven's status on earth by establishing the spiritual circles. Her behavior is typical of members of Yahweh Elohim circle. She does not care about her personal fate. I emphasize this in the verse above. The blessing was actually an initiation ceremony in which the persons assumed this spiritual role. Jacob is actually lying and deceiving, as stated in the Torah, but is actually obeying the plan set by Yahweh Elohim. The story shows how difficult things are to understand for the ordinary person, who usually admires big and powerful persons like Esau. Just imagine you're a disciple of the Lord here on earth. Let's say Meherabad. Meherabad gives you a mission, and you have to lie, cheat, and lie. And you have to obey. That's what happened. Because it's critical, it's a crucial decision. It's a matter of life or death if humanity will continue or not. This is what is at stake. Rebecca's decision is critical to the continuation of life on earth. If Cain's people finally take over, it will automatically lead to the extinction of the human race. The spiritual purpose of creation reaches a dead end. When we say the above, kind consciousness is essential and an integral part of the evolution of consciousness, but only when it is led by heaven. Heaven should be the conductor of the spiritual symphony of the orchestra in order to produce a divine energy. That's why ordinary circle of musicians cannot, even they work together with harmony, they produce the music. They are members of a spiritual circle. That's why the energy of earth, the focus still on earthly achievement. You see the achievement of the music as an earthly success. And what it means to deliver the divine energy on earth, they simply don't know it, don't understand. You need to be initiated to a certain degree. You don't need to be perfect master for this, but you must have some understanding. Jacob may have been the only man of heavy lineage on earth at the time. Abraham might also have been such a single person on earth. Apparently, it is enough to have at least one such person on earth to justify the continuation of creation. Abel acted here by virtue of supreme wisdom. Read a bit longer. The planet of Rebecca, they call it. What is so special here? Wars happen in every family. Everywhere people struggle for their status and inheritance. Why does the Torah devote so much interest to some marginal story? What's so special about it? For this is a critical point in the course of humankind. We have two possibilities. Either the Torah is a collection of imaginary stories, or it is truth, the fruit of the thoughts of people endowed with superconsciousness. Since our assumption here is that the Torah is true, it deals with the very life and death of the human race. We exist on earth because of Rebecca's initiative. That's my insight, anyway. A larger-than-life woman whose spiritual importance is appeared behind the role of motherhood. Apparently, a street was named after her. We don't have a city but the name of Rebecca, but the streets of Rebecca, Rivka, here and there. Also not so much. I don't think we have a street by Moses, where if there are, I don't know. The planet should be named after her. Her decision determined whether there was justification for the continuation of human existence on Earth. Science will, of course, ridicule such a statement. The planet is nothing but a heap of unconscious minerals. And science is beginning to discover that things are much more complicated than the senses show, even using tools that enhance the senses. We will discuss below why the heavenly lineage is essential. Human existence, perhaps, to the existence of the solar system as a whole. I think we stop here. I would like to share with you, we'll continue next week or next session. I would like to introduce it on the 30th of April. I would like to share with you this. Just a minute. 30th of April, a very great man passed away. It's Dr. Rudolf Steiner, is an initiator of the Anthroposophical Society. Rudolf Steiner started his spiritual work in the Theosophical Society, which was established by Madame Blavatsky. Madame Blavatsky, this was wrote the Secret Doctrine and other books. It's, let's say, from 1870, 80, 140 and 50 years ago. And Rudolf Steiner joined the Theosophical Society and was the head of the German branch of the Theosophical Society. And during the dispute over Krishnamurti, he resigned. He didn't accept Krishnamurti as a world teacher. Krishnamurti presumably was an advanced soul, but he was not the avatar, as the heirs of Blavatsky, Liebert, and he wasn't assumed. The boy Krishnamurti had a wonderful aura, and Peter, who was seeing auras, presumably this says that this person with such an aura must be the new Messiah, the avatar, the world teacher. And Baba himself said that this is not true. Steiner couldn't accept this, or whatever the reason, so he resigned, or he was fired from the Theosophical Society and established his. Spiritual movement. Now I found a long time ago, already during the early 80s, that Baba started his silence exactly 100 days after Steiner's passing. Steiner passed away on 30th of April, and Baba actually initiated his silence on the 9th of July, 1925. You can count 100 days. And on the 10th of July, in the morning or at night, or I don't know exactly when he started his silence, he said his silence. You know that Baba was omniscient, he knew everything on earth, and all the attempts of humanity to heal humanity. And I personally came to Baba through the Steiner group in Tel Aviv, which I found after a long search in 1972. And I came to the group of this particular individual in Tel Aviv. And this gentleman was the head of this humble group in Tel Aviv, as he was giving lectures and discourses on the teachings of Rudolf Steiner. And I remember till this day, I came there the complete spiritual novice and ignorant, didn't understand anything. His fate directed me there because I didn't seek spirituality. And when this gentleman opened the door, as if I explained that the sun walked in the first time, I met a spiritual and vast soul. And this person, for whom I prepared the brochure for his memory, I collected his stories, about him. Maybe I still have it here somewhere. Just a minute. Didn't come handy. Maybe next time I'll show you. Anyway, I made a memorial little book for him, which I gave as part of the Anthroposophical Society. And what happened after 6 months that I spent with a group of the Steiner people, the Anthroposophical people in Tel Aviv, I didn't have a clue what they're talking about. And one of the persons who participated there, he was quite a long time member of this spiritual group, and you understand the in and outs of spirituality very deeply. One day he looked at me and he said that there is a woman in Jerusalem I should meet, and he gave me the telephone number of Ruth Keri Ben Shammai, Baba's first disciple in Israel, and the rest I told you, the rest is history. When I went to visit her humble apartment in Jerusalem, I looked at Baba and I became instantly Baba realized. It's not God realization, but knew that Meherabad is the avatar, is the highest of the highest, divine beloved. He gave me the wonderful experience of divine love. So, since then, there was not much of activity there was nothing actually with Meir Baba in Israel, besides Kerry. Kerry tried to establish a few Baba groups in Israel, but didn't work out. When I came to 72, there was nobody at all. This is a picture which I took from the anthroposophical website in English. You can type the Rudolf Steiner archive and you will get to this. It's a commemoration of this person. I will have been dealing in the past extensively with this forum since I was helping the community here in Israel. I feel that I owe lovingly a loving debt for the debt or it's not a debt. I love to serve the people, especially the people. Through them, directly or indirectly, I came to divine beloved. Even the Steiner didn't speak about it. He said he's not coming again to earth. The avatar, or Yehoshua, or Jesus, will not come again in the flesh. And I think he said he will come in the, he or Blavatsky, I think, said that he will come in the etheric area, not physical body. And when we examine Meir Baba, it was more of ethereal person than physical person. Dr. Roy said he could see the veins inside his body. He was as if he was transparent. There was something unusual about him. He was somewhere in between. But never mind, nevertheless, what I have realized during my many meetings with the Anthroposophical Society here in Israel, because I used to go to the meeting, especially in Jerusalem, because we didn't have any spiritual meetings of Meir Baba in Israel, very little over the years. So I felt inclined to come to their meetings here and there. Would they naively quote something from Baba's, and they don't accept anything which is not Rudolf Steiner. And I respect it. You know, we are being told if you choose a master, you adhere to him, but They didn't like me quoting from anything which is Eastern because Steiner was a Western master, etc. Steiner never declared himself to be a perfect master. We know that he made mistakes. He had very deep struggles. He presumably had a short sojourn or training by was a Croatian, that's some kind of spiritual mystic group, Christian mystic group, I believe, mainly in Europe. And he was presumably his master for a while, for a short period. The life of Rudolf Steiner doesn't resemble the spiritual preparation of what we know as masters in the East, as a have to be disciples for a perfect master for some time, long time. As you know, even Baba, the avatar, had to be a disciple of the perfect masters, serve them and obey them. Whether he was born perfect or not, we know that he was born perfect. He was born without any trace of the scars. That's a uniqueness of about the avatar. But even as an avatar, he is to demonstrate also perfect discipleship. That's my understanding. Eventually, what happened, I was participating somewhat with the Anthroposophical Society in the later in the 70s, and in the 80s, volunteered in they, they have homes for the disabled children, what we called a childhood, Baba calls them angels locked in ugly cages, etc. And what happened? That the person with whom I had shared Baba since the 19, the mid-90s of past century in Tel Aviv somewhere. He told the Theosophical Society they were looking for somebody to translate the abridgment of the sacred doctrine into Hebrews, which I did, eventually accomplished it. I finished it in Meherabad, I think it was 2006 or 2007. At 7 or 8 Theosophists came to visit Meherabad at that time. And they're open for Meher Baba. They were interested with Baba's teaching to a certain degree, even they didn't come Baba lovers. At that time, when they came to Meherabad, none of them entered the Samadhi. I didn't tell them anything, but I was standing in the side. They looked bewildered at all this spectacle that people are entering the tomb and bowing there. These are Western Israelis. They are not accustomed to all these Eastern ways of worshipping the masters. And as I told you frankly, when I came first time to Meherabad, 1979, I also came to Baba's room in Meherabad, and I looked at this strange spectacle, people going to a chair, and then Meher all of a sudden opened their door from the other side of Baba's room, walked straight to me and ordered me, why don't you take Baba's darshan? And with the Theosophist, I get together once or twice a month and we read together the book of the secret document, which I translated into Hebrew. So I'm the super VIP, the translator of this impossible, and the head of the president said from time to time, I don't understand how I managed to fulfill this task, which is impossible. I told him, it's always the will of the beloved. I did, in order to be part of my service, the service of the humanity, everybody, the all aspirants, all search for the truth, hoping to rehabilitate humanity. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate this. We'll meet hopefully next week or next session. Thank you very much.